Everyone, we will call our meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki in the district of Sipekne'katik, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotian communities whose 400-year history have contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacies. We are all treaty people. We'll now have our moment of silent contemplation, and in addition to our normal moment of silent contemplation, I would just like to perhaps honor the late Alfred Bond, who was a councillor here a number of years ago, who recently passed away. All right, I would now be looking for the approval of or amendments to the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion is carried. We will now look for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of council. Those have been in front of you. Does anyone have any errors or omissions? Hearing none, I will declare the minutes approved. We'll now move to correspondence for information. So, councillors, is there anything under correspondence for information that anyone would like to bring forward? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Item number 84 from the SPCA. Is there any agencies around that could fill that gap? Or is that going to be something that we have to research?
Yeah, that'll be something I think we have to research, but I'll turn that over to Adam.
Yeah, through you, Madam Warden, thanks for the question. We were going to note this one for council was added to your agenda today for information. The reason that is we just want to make sure council is aware. So some of you might not have even had an opportunity to read it yet. And we'll just note for council that we have a contract for animal control through the SPCA. And they've given us notice of termination of the contract at the end of its date in March 2026. So there is a year for us to work through this, and it did come in late this afternoon. We haven't even had an internal conversation on it, but what I would just note to council is that we will be taking this and having some conversation. We will reach out to the SPCA and see if there is an opportunity to have further conversations. And then to your direct question around are there other agencies, that will be part of our internal conversation to see if there's other opportunities for us. There's none that come right to the top of mind, but our team haven't had a conversation yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I just wanted to refer to item 10, please. And I just wanted to, make the comment that with this issue, with correspondence coming from the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment, and bringing to light some good factual information about some of the items covered under Bill 6 with relation to the lifting of the moratorium on fracking and uranium mining in Nova Scotia. And I guess, I look at that, and I was on the way here, I was kind of wondering, I wonder how many wells are in East Hants, probably a few. And, I think it's something, I think I read yesterday, it may have gone through third reading in the House, and Bill 6, and it's just something that we might want to be aware of, perhaps from an advocacy perspective with people on East Hants. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from correspondence for information? Seeing none, we'll move to correspondence for decision. The first is a request from the East Hants Fire Service Association requesting that the municipality explore a municipal fire burning bylaw. Adam.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So as council sees in the letter in front of you today, the chiefs had Their quarterly meeting on March the 1st, which staff were in attendance in the liaison role at that meeting. The chiefs did have a discussion around asking council to consider a conversation around a burning bylaw. And I'm just going to kind of talk about that for a minute and then can make some suggestions to council on how you may or may not want to proceed. But the topic of a burning bylaw is really around fire pits and fire restrictions. East Hance's current approach to that is we direct individual to the provincial regulations. The province does have a set of burning regulations and restrictions in play, and they identify daily fire restrictions for open fires. Council may notice those maps that they put out for the different regions of different colors. They talk about permits for burning, open burning, reporting for violations, and complete bans across the province. And you may recall recently the province has also increased fines for violations. The concern that we heard from one of the chiefs at the meeting, which was the conversation of this letter, was kind of around burning of household waste and ensuring they had the ability to deal with that. And so that's the gap they kind of pointed out. Since then, we've looked internally and just confirmed that the Nova Scotia Fire Safety Act does enable the fire chiefs to enter property for fire suppression services. And also the solid waste resource management guidelines also speak to burning of domestic waste. And that's something we probably could go back to the chief or the chiefs collectively and just let them know that the other tool for their toolbox is there through Nova Scotia Environment. Today I did speak to a frontline provincial staff to confirm that Nova Scotia Environment does deal or support violations and concerns around domestic burning of waste. And then above and beyond provincial requirements, a bylaw could go as far as having municipal permit requirements for backyard fire pits, open burning requirements, having a fees established for permits, and enforcement requirements. And those are some pretty big topics for council and possibly resourcing concerns should you want to consider a bylaw. Establishing a bylaw could create significant redundancies for legislation that's already in place. I mentioned the provincial one earlier. And an East Hants bylaw, depending on how it were dealt with, I mentioned resourcing could be a challenge for council, and it's really a caution as you choose to have this conversation or not choose to have it. Municipal bylaws will also delegate permit approvals, enforcement, and we often see that fire chiefs are delegated this authority. And I would just note that the conversation with the chiefs are not looking for necessarily having that authority to enforce a bylaw. So you'll see in the last paragraph of their email that they'd like to be engaged on any aspects of potential enforcement should council move forward. So the first question, sorry, that's a little bit of a long-winded overview of this, but a first question to council is, do you really want to entertain this request? And if you do, which you may do, then do you want it to come back to council for further discussion, or do you want it to go to fire advisory? And I would just kind of lastly say that I would follow up with the fire service and advise them with the provincial solid waste information that I didn't provide them on the first. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Warden. Are we enforcing that provincial bylaw now? Or is, if the fire service gets a call of a burn, they have to determine whether it's a legal burn or whatever. If it's an illegal burn, they'll respond, but if it's...
Yeah, so through you, we don't enforce, through you, Madam Warren, we don't enforce as a municipality provincial regulations.
Right.
So the fire service, if they're called to an emergency, they have the obligation under the Fire Service Act to put out that fire. If it's an illegal concern, then it would have to be reported to the right provincial jurisdiction.
Okay, I just see it's an extra work for fire service, that's all that.
Councillor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. For me, I've asked around some fire departments in Colchester, and I don't believe that Colchester has a burning bylaw, what I've told. And I was also told by a lieutenant in the Onslow Belmont one that the province is currently ready to, working on updating the provincial fire suppression or fire ban with other items. So to me, I think we'd be going down a road that would, right now, is covered by the provincial government, and that gives, the chiefs right now have the authority to contact Lands and Forests or our CMP with regard to anything that they feel is illegal out there. And to me, if we bring something in, it may run into confusion along with the along with the provincial one, may cause confusion amongst out there. So I would say that right now we shy away from this, please. Thank you.
Counselor Tingley.
Through the chair, I agree with Councillor Rhino. There already are some rules and regulations around lighting fires, and there may be further regulations coming down the tubes. And I see enforcement as a big problem if we start creating a bunch of new rules. So I agree 100% with Councillor Rhino.
Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, in agreement with my fellow councillors, this could lead to a duplication of effort that's already there within the province. I think the way I kind of read this is that the chiefs are unsure of how to enforce the provincial bylaw or the provincial requirements. Because if they're asking us to do up a bylaw for illegal burning, then it tells me that, they want something that they can, look at or have enforcement with. I think we need to talk to our provincial counterparts and ensure that the proper information has been, provided to all of our fire departments, and they know the number to call for Lands and Forest or for the RCMP for any of these illegal burns that are going on. The fines are over $25,000 now, so it is a large fine, and I do believe that we need to help guide them to get the information they need, and if they feel this is still needed in the future, make sure they have every capacity to bring it back to us. Thank you.
Counselor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I am in agreement with the last couple of councilors spoke. If a volunteer fire department goes to a call and they determine that it's an illegal burn, all they have to do is call Natural Resources in Shuby, and they will take over the investigation. All the chief has to do is supply the officer in charge supply the report to the Shuby team, and it would be taken from there. So I agree, we should just wait until see what the province is going to do. Thank you.
So perhaps we could have a motion instructing staff to provide the information that Adam had said that they didn't have around the avenue for illegal burning and what that avenue is, and that at this time, we're not considering establishing a separate bylaw. Someone prepared to make a motion? Counselor Tingley.
I'll make that motion that we provide the information to fire services regarding the existing information, and that we're not prepared to make a new bylaw at this time.
Seconded by Counselor Rhino. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. And as I look at the numbers, I realize that I neglected to tell folks that we do have regrets from Councillor Musa this evening. All right, next item. It's a letter from Christine McCaskill, the owner and administrator of Serenity Lodge, seeking options to separate her property into two PIDs to allow Serenity Lodge Long-Term Care Facility to continue operation separate from her personal dwelling. Municipal regulations prevent a separation of the property without an upgrade to Russell McKean Drive to meet municipal standards at a significant cost. There will be no change of use on the property. So who's taking this one? John?
Thank you, Warden. Yes, so because this property is in a growth management area, they're not permitted to create new lots on a private road, and that's the issue, that is a private road. So the first option I think they were looking at was to actually upgrade that private road to a public road deeded to the municipality, and that would allow further subdivision. I'm imagining that's cost prohibitive. I think they've been talking to one of our engineers to find that out. So they're looking for another solution, and it would be, I'm not sure exactly what it would look like, but it might be a development agreement option, or it might be a simple change to the subdivision bylaw to do with institutional uses. I'm not sure, but there's always a way, I guess, if council is minded to do something.
So we would be looking perhaps for a motion to instruct staff to find a way forward.
Yes, I think that would be
with
the best way
situation.
forward. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, first we have Counselor Dixon.
I think the director pretty well spoke for everything on it. Is I will make the motion to look at whatever options we have to assist Mrs. McCaskill in her property. It's a senior's place. It's been in business, I think, 25 years. In the first development agreement, we didn't include any of this, and we can, some way that we can possibly help somebody that helps our seniors and employs people in our community. Appreciate that.
Seconded by Counselor Garden Cole. And Counselor Garden Cole.
Oh, thank you, Madam Warden. I just wanted to touch on that as well. This is a business that has been operating for 20 years. The person who opened it, herself and her husband, Ms. McCaskill and Wayne, have done many things for the community, and I realize that's not the issue here, but it's a very important business that we need to keep running, and if there's any way that we can set something up so that it can keep running the way it has been for the past 20 years, through a development agreement or something that can, obviously this business cannot absorb the cost that to have that road become public and what would be attached to that. So yes, I'm definitely in support of looking into how we can get around this and have it move forward. Thank you.
Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay, next item. The NSFM Municipal Infrastructure Committee is interested in further understanding the municipality's perspective on Sermgar and roads. An invitation has been extended to participate in their next meeting on April the 15th, 2025. This is an informal meeting to gain better understanding of concerns, and comments will not be considered formal feedback. Adam?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Warden. I'll just make a quick note that this is something council wants to pay attention to. The 15th is actually your committee day. That being said, I spoke with the CAO this morning, and she's marked it in her calendar to probably sneak away from committee to attend that meeting. Council may want to have an elected official on that call. If you're able to make it so, you may want to wait till the agenda comes out from committee to have that conversation. But the CAO will be paying attention to this item and reporting back to council on it, because it is something to definitely have engagement on. You want to be at the table for the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we need a motion for that. It's certainly something, anything that the province calls service exchange, and especially around roads, we would definitely want to be involved. Councillor Rhino.
I move that a staff member and a council member, if available, attend and participate in the April 15, 2025 meeting of with the Nova Scotia SFM concerning perspective on Sermgar and roads.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously. That concludes correspondence for decision. We are scheduled for a public hearing at 7:30. We have 10 or 11 minutes left from there, so I'm going to move to the nominating committee report, and I'll turn the chair over to the deputy warden. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dixon. Oh, you. Okay. I've turned the chairs.
Just so you're aware, I have to step out at about 8:10 for about 10 minutes for a conference call. So I'll be leaving at that time. Thank you.
Okay. The nominating committee met on March the 18th, 2025 to consider public membership on the East Hants Source Water Protection Committee for 2 vacant positions. One, a customer of the water utility within the Shubenacadie Water Aquifer Supply System, and a representative working in the agriculture sector within East Hants and has a stake in the water supply. Applications were reviewed by the nominating committee, and the following recommendation is coming forward as a result. The nominating committee recommends to council that council appoint the following members to the East Hants Source Water Protection Committee for a 3-year term starting April the 1st, 2025. Customer of the water utility within the Shubenacadie Aquifer Water Supply System, Jason Collin. And a representative working in the agriculture sector within East Hants and has a stake in the water supply, John Van Driet. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Okay, is there any discussion? I don't see any, so we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay, turn the chair back to you, Warden.
Thank you. So, since we are still ahead of the game, we'll start the Accessibility Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Councillor Tingley. Okay, oops. Just give me one moment here. This will be prefaced, I guess, by a brief staff report, and then Councillor Tingley will make the recommendation. Okay, Rachel?
Thank you, Madam Warden. I have a very brief presentation for Council, just to give some very basic background information on the accessibility plan. So the Nova Scotia Accessibility Act requires all public sector bodies to prepare an accessibility plan. One was approved by Council in May 2021, and there's a requirement under the Act to update the plan every 3 years. An extension was given by the province, so the new deadline is March 31st, 2025. So there are a few steps taken in the review process. Review the monitoring report to identify completed action items and action items to be kept in the plan, so we knew where we were with all those action items. A public survey was undertaken to seek feedback from the community on barriers to accessibility. The Accessibility Advisory Committee have reviewed the monitoring report, the public survey responses, comments from the CCOA, and the proposed staff changes to the plan. The plan will continue to be monitored every year, and there will be a need to be reviewed again in 3 years' time. Existing action items not completed have been moved into the amended plan. Some more additional items. So one of them was an accessibility audit section. So this was taken out of one built environment section and added into its own section. And some additional information regarding the steps outlined to undertake that audit. So there'll be the audit of the buildings, identify cost of removing the barriers, create work plan to complete the work, which would be remove the barriers, request approval of the budget to complete the work, and complete the work. So this is a lot more detail than there's in the existing plan, but it does set out in more detail exactly what those steps will be and a timeline for completing those steps. So that would be for the Lloyd E. Matheson Centre, the Sportsplex, the Waste Management Centre, and the 2 tourist properties that the municipality run. Action items, some new action items in the plan. Wayfinding signage review, that was in the existing plan, but now there's a requirement for that to review municipal park signage. That came out as a comment in the surveys. Possible locations for change tables for people with disabilities to be identified. Review the public gallery of council chambers to enable people in a wheelchair and with a visual disability to enter, move around the room. Review options for making American Sign Language available where needed at community meetings, events. Create guidelines for holding and setting up a room for accessible public meetings or events. and create a communication plan for how to reach people with disabilities during an emergency, and also to encourage emergency preparedness. And also some additional training for staff has been outlined in the plan. And that's my presentation. Thank you, Madam Warden.
Thank you. I'll turn the mic over to Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, first of all, thank you, Rachel, for that report, and staff and the previous committee for all the good work that's been done on this. The committee held a meeting on March 17th, 2025 at the Lloyd E. Matheson Center. The following motion is coming forward as a result of that meeting. Final draft of accessibility plan. The manager of planning gave a presentation regarding the review and amendment of the accessibility plan. The presentation included details of the steps taken during the review of the plan. As part of the review, public survey was undertaken and 52 responses were received. The feedback received was mostly similar to the original survey in 2019. Additionally, following a lunch and learn with the CNIB, items were added to the plan and a draft copy of the plan was sent to the CCOA, who provided comments that were made available to the advisory committee. The Accessibility Advisory Committee, it recommends that council approve the adoption of the 2025 amended accessibility plan, Accessibility East Hants. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Dixon. Councillor Mitchell.
Was the Aquatic Center in that report?
Through you, Madam Warden. Yes, it's in the report. It's separate from the accessibility audits because it talks about the Rick Hansen certification, but that is definitely included in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Well, returning to our agenda, we'll start with the Fire Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on March 6, 2025. There are no motions coming forward as a result of that meeting. Election of chairperson and vice chairperson. Myself, Councillor Perry, was appointed the chairperson of the committee. Councillor Merriam was appointed vice chairperson. Updated committee terms of reference. Mr. Clarkson provided an overview of the changes that were made to the terms of reference, noting the terms of service for firefighter members has changed from ending March 31st of the year following an election to November of the year following an election. Current members agreed to continue until November 2025 with the exception of Mr. Corey Orchard, who resigned from the committee. This position will be filled as soon as possible. Fire Department registrations. Mr. Clarkson informed the committee that the registration forms will be sent out soon to the fire chiefs and are due back by May 31st. It was noted that the form includes a section for the chiefs to let us know if any members are eligible for long service awards. As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Councillor Hebb. Seeing no one wanting to speak, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. So we are now at the hour of 7:28. We've done pretty good, I think, but I'm not sure that 2 minutes is enough time to do infrastructure and operations. So we'll just allow staff to get ready for the public hearings, which are scheduled for 7:30.
Get a chair that works. Right.
Did you want to speak before we start?
No.
Okay, councilors, we've reached the hour of 7:30, and this evening we have 2 items on the public hearing agenda. The purpose of this hearing is for council to hear input from the public prior to making a decision on the proposals. To the members of the public who have chosen to participate this evening, welcome. Please note that council's procedural policy requires that you not cheer, boo, clap, or otherwise disrupt this hearing. Anyone who wants to comment or ask questions will be provided with an opportunity to do so. Tonight, council may approve, reject, or defer its decision on the proposals to a later date. Council approval is required for the proposals to proceed. I will now ask the municipal clerk to outline when the public hearing advertisements were published.
Madam Warden, a public hearing notice appeared in the March 12th and 19th editions of the Chronicle Herald. The notices described the proposals, gave the date and time of the public hearing, and indicated that staff reports were available to the public.
Councilors, the first item on the public hearing agenda this evening is a proposal regarding a rezoning and redesignation application in Upper Nine Mile River. I would now ask the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee to present his report.
Planning Advisory Committee has considered the proposal on behalf of Municipal Council. The committee has reviewed staff's reports, completed their evaluation, and will make a recommendation to council during this hearing. Madam Warden, through you, I would now ask staff to present the final report on the proposal.
Okay. Over to you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So this application is from Edward Hunter for rezoning and redesignation in Upper Nine Mile River. So the subject property is located on the corner of Indian Road and S Road in Upper Nine Mile River. The property is 1.4 hectares in size, and it is zoned and designated currently the agricultural reserve. And the property is not located within a growth management area or growth reserve area. So the applicant has requested to change the zone and designation from the agricultural reserve to the rural use zone and designation in order to enable further as-of-right opportunities that are not permitted within the agricultural zone. And the property right now is vacant and cleared. So staff have referred to the municipal planning strategy policies associated with the rural use designation, as well as our general policies related to amending the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. So the full policy analysis for this application is in the staff report. Policy IM 10 states that council shall only consider private applications to amend the strategy where said amendments are in the best interest of the municipality. So East Hants Council shall determine if this application is in the best interest of the municipality. And policy AR 17 considers non-agricultural uses by development agreement only in the agricultural reserve designation, subject to an agricultural impact study. So staff did discuss this option with the applicant. However, they chose to continue with the rezoning and redesignation application. And Nova Scotia Public Works did provide comment, and they did not anticipate any traffic concerns regarding this application. So the applicant did engage Hillside Consulting to conduct an agricultural impact study, which is required to evaluate the soil classification and the impact of the loss of agricultural land. And the property was found to best adhere to the definition of a Class 4 subclass W under the soil classification by the study author. So Class 4 soils have severe limitations that restrict the range of crops or require special conservation practices. These soils are low to fair in productivity for a fair range of crops, but may have high productivity for a specially adapted crop. Their study also indicated that the rezoning of these lands to the rural use zone and designation would have little impact on the supply and connectivity of agricultural lands within East Hants. And this property has not been in active agricultural production for a number of years, and some small trees and other shrubs have begun to regrow on the property. The Agricultural Advisory Committee met on January 28th, and they passed a motion that Agricultural Advisory Committee recommend to the Planning Advisory Committee, recommend to Council to not approve the rezoning and redesignation application. And the committee suggested that the applicant reconsider the policy AR-17, which is the development agreement option, and we did rediscuss that with the applicant, and they still chose to proceed with this application. So this is a draft amendment map. So if council does approve the rezoning and redesignation, this is what the new zoning and designation on the property would look like. For citizen engagement, so there was an initial ad in the Chronicle Herald indicating that this application was under review. And we did have a public information meeting as part of our review process. So that meeting was held on November 5th, 2024, and there was no members of the public that attended, so no comments or concerns were brought up. And we did mail a letter and questionnaire to all property owners and residents within 500 meters of the property. So we mailed out 22 letters and 4 were returned. The responses didn't have any concerns with the proposed application. However, some comments requested that development on the property be limited to residential uses only. And with any rezoning or redesignation, it's not restricted to a certain type of use, so all uses within the rural use zone would be permitted. So just a few permitted uses include residential, certain commercial uses, agricultural uses, forestry uses. So it's not restricted to just residential. And notice for tonight's public hearing was in the March 12th and 19th edition of the Chronicle Herald, as well as on our municipal website and social media, as well as a letter mailed out again to all those property owners within 500 meters, indicating the date, time, and location of tonight's meeting. So staff have reviewed the proposal to change the subject property to the rural use zone and designation, and the amendments have been evaluated using all applicable policies in the municipal planning strategy. And council's decision on the application is not appealable to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, and staff are recommending approval of the application. That concludes my presentation. Thank you, Madam Warden.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions for staff? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff, was the Agriculture Advisory Committee's recommendation not to approve based on keeping agricultural land and trying to preserve it for the future, even though this land might not be used for agricultural purposes?
Through you, Madam Warden, I did provide the meeting notes, but there was some discussion on if approving one application for rezoning to rural use may set a precedent to permit others. The motion was not unanimous. It was a 3-2 vote, but they wanted also to consider the development agreement option so that the land could remain as agricultural reserve.
I know the province wants to preserve as much agricultural land as possible, but if it's growing up in trees and shrubs, I'm assuming that it's not going to be used for agricultural purposes in the future. So that's my question. Thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Seeing none, I would now ask if the applicant has any comments or would like to make a presentation. I do not believe the applicant is here. I will now open the floor for comments and questions. If you are viewing the YouTube live stream, you may use the YouTube chat feature, which is being monitored. First, does anyone attending in person have any questions or comments? John, would you give your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, John Vandreet, Shubenacadie.
Oh, I did have it on. It says it's... Oh, sorry. Sorry, I had the wrong mic on.
Okay.
Sorry, folks.
John Vandreet, a farmer in Shubenacadie. We do farm land in that vicinity, and a lot of land that we've recovered has been growing up in bushes, and we've made quite productive fields out of a lot of land. And I think the fact that it's a small parcel and it may have fallen into disuse doesn't mean that there's no potential for agriculture. We farm not far from there, and we've recovered a lot of acreage that previously was underperforming, and we've made quite great cropland out of it. You do have an agriculture advisory committee, which I think that you should support, and if they have a recommendation, I think the farmers that or the members that are on that committee are members of council by extension, and if they have used their knowledge and experience to make a recommendation, I would hope that the council would support that. I'm not sure why staff is recommending approval of the application, and maybe there could be more comment on that. And I think I would hope that council would support your Agriculture Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Staff, do you want to reply to that? Leanne or John? Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Warden. That's all very good comment, and definitely was taken into consideration. I think the main reason staff are recommending approval is one, based on the agricultural impact study that was provided. That is a professional company and he is an agrologist, so we did rely heavily on his recommendation and his input on that. This rezoning would have little impact on the supply of agricultural land. So that's primarily one of the main reasons is why staff is recommending, as well as the surrounding land as well is predominantly rural use as well. So it, but yeah, that's mainly the reasons, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. As well as the soil quality as indicated in the report. So it has fair to low productivity for a certain range of crops. So that's where our recommendation came from.
Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, I have a couple of questions for staff. One, do we have any idea if this would set a precedence in the future? And the other question was, I recall hearing the number of people that was at the advisory committee that had this vote, and I'm not sure how many farmers or who showed up for this. Can we have some more information about the numbers that showed up there to provide advice on this?
Through you, Madam Warden, there were 5 members of the Agricultural Advisory Committee in attendance. I can't remember off the top of my head of what group they fell within, but out of the 5, there was 3 in favor and 2 against.
How many people are on that committee?
7, I believe.
Just a follow-up question to that. And how many of them were farmers of the 5?
Through you, Madam Warden, I believe 1 was a farmer. I can't remember again off the top of my head of what group they fell within.
Okay. And what about my second question regarding a precedence is, do we know anything about what this might do as far as creating a precedent?
Through you, Madam Warden, it's hard to say. I mean, we don't have a lot of applications that come through for this type of rezoning. Usually we try to steer people in the direction of a development agreement, but I'm not sure if the director has anything else to add.
Okay, John?
Thank you, Warden. It's a good question, and something I guess we think about too, given the long-term strategy to preserve farmland. But council has dealt with, a handful of applications over the years to remove land from the agricultural district. And, you know, from the staff perspective at least, they're all treated individually on their own merits. So there is a requirement for an ag impact study, which talks about the soil quality and what it will do to surrounding agricultural operations, if there are any. So I guess we look at each one individually. So I don't think there's a domino effect or anything like that, if that's what you're worried about. It's really looking at each application on its own merits.
Yeah, I'm not really worried. I just would wonder, like, what the risks are with, as far as the precedents, if we have any understanding of that. I first voted in favor of this, and I'll just wait to see what my fellow councillors have to say about this.
Councillor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Ward. I would just, you know, there's questions around the makeup of the Agriculture Committee. I just want to point out that there was a quorum, or we would have had a meeting there. Anybody can read the minutes, and it was not a unanimous. It was a vote, and the majority voted in favor of not to support this. So that's the history on that. Like, there was enough there for a quorum, right? And the Agriculture Advisors Committee is made up of agriculture advisors who work as farmers. I just don't like calling them farmers. They're agriculture advisors. And there's makeup of citizens, and there's a makeup of councillors. That's the makeup of the Agriculture Advisor Committee. Thank you.
Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I know that we mentioned this already, but just if you can give me any more background, and maybe you can. When it was brought to his attention that he could also go through a development agreement, you said that he wasn't interested in that. Can you expand on that at all, or he'd just rather take his chances with, would he have had to give, I suppose it would had to have been more information, and it would have had been very specific had he gone through development agreement, and he wasn't willing to do that?
Through you, Madam Warden, that's pretty much how the conversation, where he didn't have a specific use that he wanted to do with the property, whereas development agreement, it would be approving a non-farm related use, where he doesn't have that idea at this time. So we presented that, and they chose to proceed with this application and wasn't entertaining the development agreement option.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff. Leanne, could you just bring up the picture of the property with the surrounding properties for me, please? Oh, the one down with the zoning. Thank you. So I look at this as, you know, it's completely surrounded by rural use. And it brings me back to when we went to rezone, when we went to put initial zoning in, the on-zoned area, when we initially tried to look at agricultural land and non-agricultural land, and found out how off we were with determining what is agriculture and what's not. And, you know, the previous council decided to fall under one zone for the on-zone portion of the municipality rather than break it down into zones. I just, you know, if this property has no buildings or anything on it, if the applicant even knew it was in the ag reserve for all those years or not, like many of the other properties that have come forward that didn't know they were this zoning until they went to do something. You know, the one thing that I always kind of relay on is that, you know, people who own their property should have the ability to do things with their property. And I look at this as, with the Class 4 soils and stuff, and the fact that everything else around it is Zone 1 thing, it really lends me one way. I fully understand what came from the Agricultural Committee, and I fully understand, you know, what they're looking at. But their guise of what they're looking at and what we look at, that is one input into the overall plan that we look at as a councillor. If it was, you know, a farmer's land that he didn't want zoned rural use and he wanted to keep it agricultural, that's a different conversation. If, you know, the restrictiveness of this zone, which we've talked about many times, basically would lead it to, correct me if I'm wrong, the only people who would buy this would be another farmer. Correct? That could do anything with it if the zone never changed.
Through you, Madam Warden, it would be restricted to what the uses within the agricultural reserve,
So-
which are
so,
farm-related uses.
Yeah, so that means the limits of who can buy it to use it become clear, like very, very small pool. So, yeah, when I look at that, I look at this application, one of the things that this council has worked very hard over the years that I've been here and seen is that when people come with a problem and they ask a question, rather than just getting no as an answer, our staff has worked very hard to guide people through possible solutions to get to the point they want to be at. And this person had two options, and they went through the long one. They hired somebody for a study, and I think that has a lot of merit in it as well. Thank you.
Counselor Tingley.
Through the chair, appreciate what Councillor Perry said there. But I'm starting to change my mind here about my initial vote for two reasons. I know that the advisory committee recommended not voting for this motion. And now just listening to the whole conversation and not really understanding what kind of a precedent I would be setting here, I don't think I can support this. I don't know if
Well, it was my understanding that staff had said they weren't concerned about it setting a precedent, because this is, as Counselor Perry said, one of the options.
Let me
and that
ask
they
the
chose and staff
question
said-
again then.
Yeah.
What do you know about what precedent this could set?
John?
Through you, Madam Warden, again, as I said earlier, we look at each one of these before we provide a recommendation to PAC, look at each one on its own merits. Does it make sense that that piece of land was put in the AR district in the first place? Does it
No.
make sense that it continue in that district?
That's not the question.
Well, and then you look at the information that was provided through, most importantly in this case, from the agrologist and his report.
I agree with all that, but my question is, could this open us up to setting a precedent? Do we understand that?
Through you, Madam Warden,
the
I
only
would say
question.
no. As I
Okay.
said earlier, council has dealt with, not a lot, but there have been a few applications over the years for similar circumstances where somebody wants to take a piece of land. Sometimes it's just an individual lot. Sometimes it's a little bit bigger out of the ag district, and we go through the same process. So, having done, as long as I've been here, I think we've dealt with one of those probably every 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't say there's a stampede or that those earlier ones set a precedent or anything like that.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that. Like, the main thing I was concerned about is setting a precedent, I guess. That's it.
And next, we have Counselor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just as a refresher, if it's changed from AR to RU, what are the as-of-right developments, the opportunities that could be done in the RU zone?
I think they're on the screen before you, Counselor.
Okay,
Through you, Madam Warden, this is not the entire list. I just included a few uses that are permitted within the rural use, so residential, commercial uses, so tradesperson, craftsperson, kind of retail stores, restaurants, rental stores, still permits agricultural uses, forestry uses. That's just a few.
okay. Body shops or,
I believe an auto repair shop would be through a development agreement in the rural use zone.
okay, thank you. Just gave me an idea.
Deputy Warden McPhee.
Thank you, Warden. I was going to wait to make comments after the motion, but seems like maybe this is an appropriate time right now. As chair of the Agricultural Advisory Committee, there was a good discussion on this. It was a vote of 3-2 that we didn't support going through with the change in zoning because the development agreement was an approach that this landowner could take. And I remember asking John beforehand whether or not he'd be able to build a barn or a garage besides his house. Anything like that that he would be wanting to build residentially would still be available. There was some question as to the soil analysis and that. One member that's fairly knowledgeable in the soil types in this area said that he said it was more of a class 3, that it certainly would produce hay. And the lots right next to it are agricultural land and can produce hay, so it would be the same. So, and there was also some worry of setting a precedent or, going too far down the road that we just change the zoning for people in agricultural land. But it wasn't a opposition to this one lot being developed for residential use. It was a question of, could this land be used for agricultural? Yes, it can. Land in the area can be used agriculturally, and there was an option within the present zoning to achieve the goals that the landowner wanted. So that's why a synopsis of how the vote came out 3-2. And knowing what the motion is, I'll be supporting the Agricultural Advisory Committee, and I'll be voting against the motion when it's made. Thank you.
Okay, councilors, we've kind of wandered from our script. We had a member of the public speaking, and what member of the public had to say has generated some questions for councilors. I think with council's permission, I'm going to get us back on track, and I'm going to move through the script, and councilors will have an opportunity to ask their questions and comments once the motion has been put, and staff will be able to answer at that time. So we have no one else in person here who wishes to speak. I will now open the floor. Does any member of the public have any questions or comments through the live chat on the YouTube live stream? No. No. Okay. Does any member of staff have any final comments? No. I would now ask the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee to present his committee's recommendation.
Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council give second reading and approve the proposal for PID 45189-206 to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw by changing from the agriculture reserve AR zone and designation to the rural use RU zone and designation. As chair of PAC, I so move.
Now, are there any final questions or comments from municipal councilors? Councilor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff, was not the premise of rezoning this?
I'm sorry, we need a seconder to Councilor Mitchell's motion.
Oh,
Seconded by Councilor Merriam. Carry on, Councilor Rhino.
yep. No, wasn't the premise for this zone change that a residence was going to be built? Wasn't that what we were working on, the assumption during the Agriculture Advisory Committee and the Planning Advisory Committee?
Through you, Madam Warden, that's, the applicant has indicated that the intent is to build a dwelling unit.
Okay, thank you for that. I understand that as of right now, they could put a dwelling unit on that. But I guess the big thing for me is it's not actively being used right now. I understand, yes, you can haul the alders off it and then you can make it workable again. But for me, for a 3.46 acre parcel right now, and if you put a residence on that, for a well and a septic in an unserviced area, you're probably looking at least 2 acres of ground. So that would leave only 1.46 acres to leave there. And I really don't think there could be a tremendous amount of farming done on 1.46 acres. Now, I stand to be corrected, but it seems very minimal. And I guess for me, that's what changed it. Had it been a bigger parcel and this person had the same, he had the same choice to do this, I might have thought the other way. But for me, it's the size of that lot right there, because there won't be hardly anything left with 1.46 acres, so I'm intended to support the motion. Thank you.
Counselor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, a few things I wanted to highlight, I guess, in my mind at this point. Going through this process, I feel that there was a lot of opportunity for concerned folks to raise opposition or, more substantial feedback than what we received. So, with perhaps some exception, largely there was really no opposing feedback other than through Agricultural Committee notwithstanding. So I do take that into account. Also, of course, the staff report or the report that was presented, for example, indicating the soil quality, I think is fair to medium quality of soil. That's significant. The relatively small size of the lot. So, if it was 25 acres of farmland or something, that in my mind, in my opinion, it would be more substantial. But it seems relatively small in the grand scheme of things. I think Councillor Tingley raised a very important question tonight, twice, which staff did answering, and I thought they gave it their best shot at a really good answer of the precedent setting. So just to kind of approach that again, if this was 100% precedent setting, I would have, it would be very, it would have a significant bearing. But I take solace in that every application my understanding is that every application is treated separately and, on its own merits, and that by its very nature, that doesn't seem precedent setting at all. And, so those are a few things that I wanted to highlight as we move ultimately towards a vote. Thank you.
Counselor Head.
Madam Warden. Councillor Rhino made some valid points there, and I just want to expand on that a little bit. 3.4 acres, that's not a very big parcel of land. And with the soil classifications, in order to make that feasible to put any kind of a cash crop on there, you'd have to plow it, you'd have to harrow it, you'd have to seed it, and you got to fertilize it. And to me, that would be an awful expense for any farmer to do for what you would get off of 3.5 acres. And not being disrespectful to the Agriculture Committee at all, I understand where they're coming from, and as Councillor Merriam said, if it was a bigger piece of land, it would be a different story altogether. But I think we're talking, 3.5 acres. I can't see any farmer wanting to spend that amount of money on it to make a cash crop. And so I will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, the Agricultural Committee, of course, it wasn't the size of the lot that they were considering or how much it could be used or how much would be left over and whether that could be developed into a dairy farm. Obviously, it couldn't. The thought was simply the same amount of land will be left over whether it's done by development agreement or whether it's done by rezoning. And the concern really was setting a precedent of rezoning agricultural land. That was really the concern at the Agriculture Advisory Committee. There was an option. They weren't opposed to this lot being developed. They just would sooner see it done by development agreement rather than rezoning. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Counselor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just one more thing, and I was on the fence literally last week about this, and only for the reason that they didn't choose to go through a development agreement. I understand that it's surrounded by rural zoning already, but I did wonder at the time why they didn't go through the development agreement. And I do respect the Agricultural Advising Committee. That's why we have these committees, is to, have them guide us in our decisions. So this one is a bit of a tough one. Agricultural land, changing that zone is not something that we would want to set a precedence. I don't know that we can really predict whether something will set a precedence or not until we do it and then see where the chips may fall. But I realize it's a small piece of property, and as Councillor Perry said, it is already surrounded by rural use. But also, I mean, there's valid points for it all around, but also just the fact that we would be rezoning agricultural zoning. So, yeah, it's, that's it for me. Thanks.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you. Just like all committees provide recommendations, and it's up to council to make the decision. Committees do not make decisions for council. That is one thing. The other thing is, if anybody's worried about a precedent being set, we have already rezoned agricultural land to rural use already. It's already happened on previous councils, and I believe this council did it for a small parcel already as well. So if the precedent, people are worried about a precedent being set, then it's already been done. And there's no flood coming in. And when it goes to development agreement or having the as of right, there's a difference between a development agreement for a business and a commercial enterprise and a private home and dwelling, right? You have to have everything planned out in that development agreement, right down to the T of your layout and everything else. Supply chains, things change, then you have to come for an amendment to your development agreement of the type of building you're gonna do, whether you're gonna do vinyl siding or you're gonna do brick or you're gonna do everything. We put that in our development agreements for all of our commercial buildings, and the same thing would be expected for any development agreement for a personal home. And that is just, to me, an unnecessary burden to put on somebody. Somebody who owns the land should be able to build the house that they want to live in without us getting too involved in it, other than inspections and making sure it's safe. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councillor Rhino.
I'm not going to belabor this, but I agree with Councillor Perry in this first part. The precedent's already been set. We've done this, and our director's already said this here tonight. We've done this probably once every 3 years, 2 years, or, you know, I can't remember the time frame that our director said. So the precedent's already been set. We are looking at each one seriously when we do this, because we know the value of agricultural land, but it is the reasons why it landed into agricultural land. It could have been because the homeowner didn't have the opportunity or know about the opportunity to have it designated, or there could be a number of reasons, but we really do take these seriously. And for me, in this one, as I stated before, I'll be supporting this, switching this zone for the same reasons I've said, and I'm not going to repeat them before. But the precedent's already been set, so you can't set a dozen precedents on the same issue. Thank you.
Okay, no one else left to speak. Last chance, folks. All right. We will go to the vote. Well, we need someone to vote. Oh, right, Councillor Dixon is gone and Councillor Musa was not here when the discussion started. So the motion is passed by a vote of 8-1 with Deputy Warden McPhee voting nay. Okay, moving on to the second item on our agenda tonight. Is a proposal to permit small mini homes to be used as accessory dwelling units in a residential zone. I would now ask the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee to present his report.
Planning Advisory Committee has considered the proposal on behalf of Municipal Council. The committee has reviewed staff reports, completed their evaluation, and will make a recommendation to Council during this hearing. Madam Warden, through you, I would now ask staff to present their final report on the proposal.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Warden. So in June of 2024, East Hants Council passed the following motion that council directs staff to review land use regulations that are preventing small manufactured housing units from being used as accessory dwelling units. So currently in the land use bylaw, mini homes are not permitted to be used as an accessory dwelling unit within a residential zone, as per section 6.2.5. Mini home dwellings are also not permitted as a main use within the residential zones as well. So section 6.2.5 references our width to length ratio for residential buildings and specifically states that mini home dwellings, as per the definition, are not permitted. So should PAC and council wish to consider small mini homes, an amendment to remove that section, which states mini home dwellings are not permitted, would be required. So removing the following text in red. And as per the permitted uses table, mini homes would still not be permitted as a main use within a residential zone. And there is also regulations under section 3.14, which are the accessory dwelling unit provisions, which include design requirements that would prohibit the use of a mini home as an accessory dwelling unit. So the regulation states that an accessory dwelling unit must match the main dwelling in building material type, cladding color, roof type, and roof pitch. Shipping containers used as accessory dwelling units are exempt from this design requirement. So an amendment to also include to exempt mini homes from the design requirements, as well as the height requirement for garden suites would be required. There's also municipal planning strategy policy amendments that would be required in order to allow mini home dwellings as accessory dwelling units. So an amendment to our policies RD2, RD16, and RD21 all reference that accessory dwelling units shall be designed to maintain the appearance of a single detached dwelling. So an amendment to remove that requirement would be required. So removing the following text in red are the proposed amendments, just indicating removing that they shall maintain the appearance of a single detached dwelling. So these are some of the examples of the types of mini homes that would be permitted. The length to width ratio would still be applicable. So these are 3 different examples of the types of mini homes that would be permitted as an accessory dwelling unit. For citizen engagement, so there was an advertisement in the Chronicle Herald indicating these amendments were under review. And there was a public information meeting that was held in February of 2025. Some of the comments from that meeting included some questions on the timelines and when these amendments could become effective, questions on whether these amendments would be specific to a certain area or apply across the municipality, and then questions regarding the definition of a mini home. And the notice of tonight's meeting was in the Chronicle Herald on March 12th and 19th, and on the municipal website and social media. So we are at the public hearing stage, and staff are recommending that the amendments be approved. Thank you, Madam Warden.
Thank you. Does any member of council have questions for staff? Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to Leanne or John. I still struggling with how you're gonna put this in the serviced area. Like, how you gonna fit that on 10,000 square foot? Like, the biggest lot, you could do it 10,000 square foot, and there's no way you're gonna put this one in the back. So it's mostly going to the rural area, right?
Through you, Madam Warden, it applies to any residential zone, so as long as the lot meets the lot area requirement for an accessory dwelling unit, the setback requirements. So there are some lots in the service area that would be large enough to accommodate.
Oh, I understand, but
accessory
if somebody in a service area have an acre lot that's worth a lot of money, they're not gonna put, logically, they're not gonna put something like that on the back. And about the accessory dwelling, like, what's the idea about it had to be like smaller than, like, way smaller in size than the actual dwelling? Like, is it is it something that we want, like, the appearance to, for the secondary dwelling not to appear bigger than the?
Through
Is
you,
this
Madam
one of the
Warden.
reasons? So I just don't understand why the reason are to be smaller, like.
The requirement is it's either 80% of the gross floor area up to 80 square meters, which is 860 square feet, and it's an accessory unit. It's not meant to be a second main dwelling on the property, so it's meant to be smaller than the main house.
Yeah, it meant to be smaller, and probably it looked better if it's smaller or tucked in behind the actual dwelling. That's the way I see it, like one of the reason that it should be smaller, because and that's why it's not in the front and the house in the back, right? So how you gonna put that mini home and make it look smaller? Like if you put it sideways, like it's gonna look on both sides of the house, so it's gonna defeat the purpose of being smaller than the house, because it could be smaller in size, but the way it's narrow and long, it could look much bigger than the house. So I think that's gonna happen a lot in an unserviced area. But anyways, that's it for now. Thank you.
Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff. There was a great discussion the last time around the definition of a mini home. Has that ever been solidified, or is it still, could a small mobile home be considered a mini home? And I understand, as it is said, must match the main dwelling and material build of the house. So it would be very hard, I would think, to get a older mobile home to match that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but have we ever? Are we still on the premises it's a mini home is a modular home plus a stick-built modular home and a mobile home?
Through you, Madam Warden, our definition of a mini home would include both. And to your point on the design, the amendment is to exempt mini homes from the design requirements.
So to exempt the mini home from the design requirements.
Yeah.
So if we exempt mini homes from design requirements, what's to say that we couldn't put an old mobile home that meets the size and length and run it up in the middle of Elmsdale infield or in the serviced area or any area, I understand people have to have a place to live, but would it be compatible with many places in the built-up area, serviced area? So those are, and it's not like those older homes. It would be nothing for some people to junk that off and create a nice little home and make them fit the size. So to me, I think there's a gap in that definition, and I think it really should be looked at. And also, is there not another avenue coming back? Because I really haven't feel strongly, we're making main dwelling units, these mini homes match them, but such things such as a container are not. So will this be coming back also?
Through you, Madam Warden, there is a report coming back to PAC and Council regarding design requirements for as stick-built units.
Basically, I think for me, I think it's a great start. We have to, I think we should allow mini homes as accessory dwellings because I think it's very affordable, but I just like to see some parameters that around that, so they're affordable and they look good as well. Thank you.
Deputy Warden McPhee. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to staff, as far as the design requirements, so the width to length ratio, that still is in effect. So there are still design requirements. We're just taking out the parts that's excluded mini homes before. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Warden, yes. So the width to length ratio is a separate provision from the accessory dwelling unit provision. So the width to length ratio applies across all new construction buildings, including mini homes. But, so it would still apply, the 3-to-1 ratio.
So what design requirements are we changing? I know some of it doesn't have to look like it's an attached building. It can be separate by itself. And just what else would we be changing?
Through you, Madam Warden, the amendments are to exempt mini homes from, that they don't have to match in terms of the roof pitch,
Right.
the siding, the color. So that's what the amendments are, is to exempt mini homes from those requirements.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I have no counselors waiting to speak. So I will now open the floor for comments and questions. If you are viewing the YouTube live stream, you may use the YouTube chat feature, which is being monitored. First, does anyone attending in person have any questions or comments? Seeing none. Does any member of the public have any questions or comments through the live chat on the YouTube live stream? No? Does any member of staff have any final comments? No? I would now ask the chair of the Planning Advisory Committee to present his committee's recommendation.
Planning Advisory Committee recommends that the council give second reading and approval to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to permit small mini homes as accessory dwelling units. As chair of PAC, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Tingley. Is there any discussion or questions on the motion? Councillor Garden Cole first, and then I'll get to you, Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So can you just clarify this for me? So we've gotten to the public hearing on this, but we are already questioning, we are already having staff come back to us with what is our definition of a mobile home? Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Warden, I believe the motion was for us to look at those definitions.
So if we were to vote this through, if this motion passed tonight, then we would move forward with deciding what was our definition of, get a clearer definition of what a mini home is.
Through you, Madam Warden, I believe that's the intent.
Just, we keep coming up
John
with,
has asked to weigh in on that. Oh, sorry.
Yes, through you, Madam Warden. So if this motion passes tonight, and, you know, there's a little bit of a process after this before it comes into effect, about a month. But once it's in place, any permit applications that come in, we would base them on our current definition. So council has asked us to go look at, you know, the definition, and we'll bring that back at some point. But in the meantime, if this is in effect, then we could start issuing permits. And the reason this all started was there is somebody anxious to put an elderly relative in a mini home that they've already purchased. So that's why, you know, I guess everything's not together, if you will. There's a bit of urgency to it.
okay, everything's not together, yes, because it seems like we're doing this a little bit backwards. It seems like we should be getting these questions answered before we bring this to, you know, to vote on a motion. We should be getting the definition of what we feel is a mini home. Just seems like we are, it seems like we're jumping the gun a little bit on this. Thank you.
Well, through you, Madam Warden, again, I mean, there is a definition in place, and that's the one we'll use. And it does include, I forget the CSA standard, but there's a CSA standard that applies to mini homes and what older versions people would call a mobile home. But again, it is restricted too in terms of, there are two restrictions on it, the length to width ratio. So many of those older mobile homes, we'll call them, that you see around, a lot of them with the metal siding and so on, they would not meet the 3-to-1 ratio. And secondly, you're restricted in terms of it can only be 80% of the floor area of your current dwelling. So it has to be smaller than your current dwelling, and it's limited by that 3-to-1. So those things are still in place.
Counselor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How long before we'll have this next presentation on the homes? I mean, we could open up to a lot of people jumping in and doing what we probably don't want. Is there any way of answering that? I know it's putting you on the spot.
Dear Madam Warner, are you referencing the definition?
Yes, sorry.
I'm not sure.
Through you, Madam Warden, I don't think it'll be too long. Like, it won't be in April, but it'll probably be in May or June. So
Okay.
soonish.
I'll accept that. The question for the warden, have I been in long enough to vote on this?
Were you in when we started the discussion on this item?
No.
Then you would not be able to vote.
Okay, no, that's fair. Thank you.
Counselor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So, going back, like, as of now, without doing anything, if the length and width ratio is there, they cannot put it?
Through you, Madam Warner, if it doesn't meet the 3-to-1 ratio, it wouldn't be
If
permitted.
it meet, they can put it already, like, without us doing anything now.
No.
No, it specifically states in the regulations that mini homes are not permitted in
Okay.
a residential zone.
All right, so, yeah, so if we approve this, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be the same as you build in a house, like 3-to-1 ratio, right? But what I'm struggling with, probably same thing as Councilor Rhino, if somebody wanna spend like 150,000 and 200,000, they have to match the front, the original home, and probably the original home have old beat-up siding, and they want to change it, and sometimes, and they cannot change it right now. Probably they are planning to change the front to match the back. So why not, they cannot put a nice siding on the back and allow them that too. So if it's good for the mini home, it should be good for the other thing too, for the structure they're building. So I'm struggling with that. So I cannot support this without that. They both could be good going together. Thank you.
Okay, I have no other, Counselor Hebb.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just want to remind council that we do now allow containers to be used as accessory dwellings. And we're worried about a mobile home and a mini home. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Thank you.
Counselor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, just to weigh in to that, I'll echo what Councillor Hebb just mentioned. I mean, I know we've talked a lot about this, but the fact that shipping containers are, it's fair game at this point. So, I mean, I guess that's already out there. But what stands out to me too is a key thing that sometimes I think, it's easy to miss it is, again, the 3-to-1 ratio, length to width. So by its nature, it just can't be super long like the old ones we're thinking of from 20 years ago or whatever. So I mean, but that, I think that's really important. And I know I mentioned this previously, but I do see in the world right now, a need with people. So we come back to helping people, and I think in our communities, just with rents so expensive everywhere. This I can see this being increasingly important over time to help, I think in a lot of cases, family members who it's a perfect solution. And sure, I mean, I think over time, I think this will be, modified and things will gradually, improve over time. But I think there's a need for this, and I will be supportive of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff. I understand this motion, I understand everything. But currently in our regulations, if someone was to build an accessory dwelling, they are required to make it match the primary dwelling in appearance and everything, correct?
Through you, Madam Warden, yeah, that's correct.
And they are still restricted by the 80% of the floor space up to a maximum of 800 and some odd square feet. So this is part of the problem that I agree with Councillor Musa is there's no problem with the mini homes. It's the problem that if somebody doesn't want to get a mini home and they want to get a building permit and they want to build a structure in their backyard, they're forced to match their current dwelling when, that might not be the end desire. That somebody right now could be saying, I'm going to put off putting windows and new siding on my house because I need to build a place for my mother or my daughter or my son or my grandchildren to live in. And now, I don't want to build them. I don't want to get a mini home. I want to build them a proper dwelling. So we're putting restrictions on people doing it one way. And like Councillor Hebb said, right? If they didn't want to do that, they could just drop a shipping container in or drop a mini home in. So I really think we have to look at the accessory dwellings as a whole, because I think, I think we already have a report coming on the size of lots, I do believe, required based on other factors. But with this here, somebody else who wants to do it just a different way is going to be forced to probably pay more to get a product they really don't want because they're not buying a prefab or a mini home. So that kind of gets me. Thank you.
Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I have a question. Is there any? I don't think we can amend to put them both together in this motion, or we have to
No.
do on our. No, we can't because it's a public hearing. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, seeing no one else left to speak, we will go to the vote. And the motion has passed by a vote of 8-2, with Councillor Musa and Councillor Perry voting nay. So this concludes tonight's public hearing, and I would like to thank you for attending. So moving back to our agenda, I believe we are at the Infrastructure and Operations Committee. Over to you, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on March 18th, 2025, and the following motion is coming forward as a result of those meetings. The FRIP application report. The application process for Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program opened on March 3rd, 2025. The application deadline is April 28th, 2025, and requires a resolution of council endorsing specific project submissions. Staff recommend submitting an application for the flood risk mitigation study, Barney's Brook. This project has been approved to take place this fiscal year. The Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommend the council prioritize flood risk mitigation study, Barney's Brook, as municipal's priority for a funding application through the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program for 2025. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Merriam. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. We will now move to the Corporate and Residential Services Committee report. Over to you, Councillor Garden Cole.
Just a little bigger. Thank you. The committee held its regular, The The committee held its regular meeting on March 18, 2025, and the following motions are coming forward as a result of those meetings. First item, draft 2025-26 water utility budget. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee completed a review of the draft 2025-26 water utility budget. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that Council approve the East Hants water utility financial estimates from 2025-26 to 2027-28 as presented. As Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Dixon. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously.
Number 2, Equitable East Hants Plan. In September 2024, the Corporate and Residential Services Committee was provided an overview of the Dismantling Racism and Hate Act. The provincial legislation requires municipalities to create a plan to address systemic hate, inequity, and racism. Staff drafted a plan penned as Equitable East Hants for Council's consideration. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council the adoption of the Equitable East Hants Plan as attached to the Executive Committee agenda dated March 18, 2025. As Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously.
Number 3, Earthkeepers lease extension. In March 2022, Council moved motion C-2291 to enter into a new lease agreement with the Enfield Earthkeepers for the former CN train station for a term of 3 years, ending July 31st, 2025, with a 2-year option to renew. In February 2025, the Earthkeepers formally requested to proceed with the 2-year renewal term. Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council that Council authorize the CAO to execute the lease renewal term with the Enfield Earthkeepers for the former CN train station for a renewal term of 2 years ending July 31st, 2027. As Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
4, Pension Cost Certificate. The cost certificate prepared by an external actuary does not have an impact on funding requirements for the plan. It is simply an updated estimate of the plan's funded position for the pension regulator. This cost certificate is a regulatory requirement with a filing deadline of March 31st, 2025. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council that Council approve the filing of the December 31st, 2024 actuarial cost certificate attached to the March 18th, 2025 Executive Committee agenda. As Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Second.
Wow. Seconded by Counselor Perry. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Do I still do that? As Chair of the Committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Second.
I don't think I do it anymore.
That I don't remember from our workshop if we have to do that.
I don't think.
Okay. So that concludes the report. So then we will move on to the Parks, Recreation, and Culture report. Councillor Rhino. I'm trying.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Committee held its regular meeting on March 18, 2025, and the following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. First on the agenda is District Recreation Funds first intake. The first District Recreation Fund intake closed on January 31st, 2025. There were 7 grant applications across 7 districts received with request fundings totaling $150,284. The applications were reviewed by staff, grant review committee, and evaluated against council policy. All 7 applications meet the criteria and have been included in this report. So from that, the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee recommend to council that council approve District Recreation Funding 2025-2026 intake number 1 as the following. Enfield District School Parent Teacher Association. District 1, $31,973. From District 2, $10,000. From District 10, $10,000, for a total of $51,973. Also, East Hants Gymnastics and Trampoline Club, from District 1, $2,000. From District 2, $11,849. From District 3, $2,000. From District 7, $2,000. From District 10, $1,500, for a total of $19,349. The 9 Mile River Trails Association, from District 1, $2,000. From District 2, $2,000. From District 3, $14,605. District 3, asterisk if required, $7,105. District 7, $2,000. And District 10, $1,500, for a total of $29,210. Milford Recreation Association, from District 2, $2,000. From District 3, $2,000. From District 6, $16,230. From District 7, $2,000, for a total of $22,230. Lance Recreation Society, from District 1, $5,000. From District 2, $2,000. From District 6, $2,000. And from District 7, $7,480, for a total of $26,480. Mount Uniacke Mustangs, from District 8, $7,708. From District 8, asterisk, if required, $5,400. From District 9, $7,707. From District 9, if required, asterisk, $5,440, for a total of $26,215. Quarter Minor Baseball, from District 1, $2,508. From District 2, $2,000. From District 8, $484. From District 10, $4,992, for a total of $9,984. Total funding allotment at this time is $185,441. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. Back to you, Councillor Rhino.
Volunteer nominations 2025. Staff presented a report outlining nominees for the 2025 East Hants Volunteer Awards and provided a recommendation for the recipient of this year's Model Volunteer Award. The Model Volunteer will represent East Hants at the Nova Scotia Provincial Volunteer Awards. So from that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommend to Council to approve the Volunteer Award nominees and model volunteers be accepted as presented in the confidential memo sent to Council by email, and for the model volunteer be designated to represent the municipality of East Hants at the Provincial Volunteer Awards. If chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Councillor Tingley. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously.
Rising Tide Shore Signage Project update. The proposed Rising Tide Shore is a scenic part of the Highway 215, stretching across East and West Hants municipalities and is known for having the highest tides in the world. The initiative is aimed at enhancing the visitor experience, improving wayfinding, and supporting economic development along the scenic Highway 215 shore route. So from that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommend to Council that Council give the CAO direction to continue on the Rising Tide Shore signage program as outlined in the report at Executive. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Councillor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously.
And the final item was a familiarization bus tour, dates. The Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee held a discussion with the committee regarding dates for the familiarization bus tour of the corridor and central areas. Based on the discussion, it was determined that June the 13th, 2025 will be the best date for council to attend the first tour of the corridor. So with that, that brings me to the end of my committee report.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we will go to the Planning Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Councillor Mitchell.
The committee held its regular meeting on March 18, 2025 in council chambers. The following motion are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Land Secondary Planning Strategy update from FBM. Kieran Hunt, partner and planning lead for FBM, presented an update on the Land Secondary Planning Strategy. A copy of the presentation was attached to the agenda and available to all committee members. Discussion was held and questions were addressed by Mr. Hunt. Second item, Plan 24-012, the Shaw Group amendments to the official community plan. The Shaw Group is applying for MPS and LUB amendments to enable a housing development targeted at workers from the Shaw Lands plant. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council give first reading to an application from the Shaw Group Limited to amend the MPS and LUB by changing the land use designation of a portion of PID 450-86980 to medium density residential neighborhood MR and rezone the same portion of land to townhouse R2T zone for the purpose of enabling a public hearing and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Dixon. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I've already talked about my concern with it being opened, with it being accessed on Church Street Road, but I will be open to going to a public hearing and seeing what the residents of the area and the businesses have to say about it. Thank you.
Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair to council, regarding Councillor Garden Cole's comment there. After the meeting, or whenever it was with the Shaw people were here, he did mention that he was not aware of that second entrance that they could have, and they're going to look at it.
Councillor Garden Cole.
Thank you. The thing is, we have a beautiful roundabout there that Shaw's is exiting right out through, and that whole development could do the same thing. When they talked about access to the sewer and water, maybe it's a little shorter on Church Street, I'm not sure, but to me, like, it's just, doesn't make any sense to me why they would be heading out on that little side street when they could be exiting into that new roundabout. That's just my issue that I have with this. Thank you.
Jesse? Oh, just 1 second. The mics are lagging.
Through Madam Warden, staff wish to flag that there is some technical challenges with road safety on the Shaw industrial side at the roundabout, where that property could in theory connect. There is a large turning area that is used for transport trucks. It's part of the Shaw's ongoing operations, and there'd likely need to be substantial changes to that. Otherwise, you would have a driveway connected to an industrial turnaround area, which staff would flag as not ideal for public safety.
Thank you, Jesse. Any further comments? We'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Back to you, Councillor Mitchell.
Third item, Plan 24-002, Edward Hunter, redesignation and rezoning. That was dealt with at the public hearing. Fourth item, mini homes and accessory dwelling units. In June of 2024, East Hampton Municipal Council passed a motion directing staff to explore the possibility of permitting small mini home dwellings as accessory dwelling units. The report outlines the current regulation for accessory dwelling units and proposed changes to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to allow mini homes to be used as accessory dwelling units. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council direct staff during the 2026 plan review to look at reducing the acreage size for an accessory dwelling unit or tie the accessory dwelling unit to other specifications such as sewer and water capabilities. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded, Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Based on the discussion we had about the accessory dwelling earlier in the public hearing, I would like to move an amendment to this motion that staff look at the matching side of the original building and the accessory dwelling building. And the reason why I'm doing that, because there's so many older buildings that you cannot match anything with them. And I think they should be looked at, because some people, they still have like wood windows, like nobody want to put wood windows like old wood windows in a brand new unit behind their home. So I think we should be flexible and looking at those problems too. Like not everybody have a nice home in the front that could match in the back. So I think in the planning, is that good in the planning, John, that we do that too, look at this?
Through you, Madam Warden. Yes, I think basically you're asking us just to look at the design requirements to match a house. So, and I'd forgotten earlier, Madam Warden, during the public hearing, that the next motion also directs us to do this during the next public hearing as opposed to in the next month or two. So I don't know if that's your intent with this one as well, the first motion?
It says during the 2026 plan review.
Plan review, yeah, like in the plan review.
And yes, certainly, I fully expected through the next plan review to look at all the requirements for accessory dwelling
Yeah,
units.
because if you go to the rural area, John, there's a lot of old homes, and there's no way you can match the accessory dwelling with what existing in there. And they want to put something nice, so we should be flexible there. And maybe down the road, they fix the front to match the back instead of matching the older house, right?
So you're moving an amendment to include examining the requirement for design.
Does the design requirement too, yeah.
Okay, do we have a seconder for the amendment?
Seconded.
Okay. But this is to the amendment, which is simply to add to this motion to look at reducing the acreage size and/or tie the accessory dwelling unit to other specifications such as sewer and water capabilities, and to look at design requirements. It's adding the "and to look at design requirements" that's on the floor now. Is that to the amendment? Okay. Okay, 1 second. Go ahead.
Okay. Through you to John. John, I spoke on this stick-built home business here quite a while ago. Isn't that motion still relevant, where it would make this amendment redundant? Because I talked on this issue ad nauseum here, and that was my big peeve, because the stick-built home had to be the exact same as that. So I thought that motion was on the floor to bring this back.
Through you, Madam Warden, you're right. I can't remember the exact wording of that earlier motion, but I would interpret this one more generally to look at all design requirements for accessory dwelling units, for the shipping containers, mini homes, and the stick-built ones. So I don't know if it would become redundant, but this one's more general, I would say. Yeah, well, my interpretation would be yes, that it would cover any type of accessory dwelling unit instead of just the stick-built.
So now the motion to bring back the stick belt stuff, the more information around that will be covered under, now gone and covered under Councillor Moose's amendment to this motion.
Yes, through you, Madam Warden, I think so. I'll have to go back and look at the exact wording of that to see if there was something else that you wanted covered, but that, I think that this motion would encompass.
Well, when the director
all three.
tells me I think so, I get nervous.
I
I
think
really
either way,
do.
Counselor, it would be covered either by the prior
Well, that's
motion
what
or by this motion.
that's what I want to know, all right?
Okay, to the amendment, Counselor Garden Cole?
I'm just confirming that shipping containers are included in the
It just says
planning review.
design requirements, which is very broad.
They're exempt.
But in the plan review, we're going to look at that.
But in the plan review, it's going to be reviewed. They're included.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote on the amendment, which is to add design requirements to this motion. The motion is passed unanimously. Now, to the amended motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the amended motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay, back to you, Counselor Mitchell.
The Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council direct staff to bring a report back regarding the definition of mini homes during the next plan review. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Rhino. Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Second reading and approval to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw was dealt with at the public hearing. Request from Clayton Developments to present to PAC. The municipality received an application from Clayton Development Limited for an amendment to their development agreement, which was permitted in 2020. An initial report regarding the development agreement amendment application was presented to Planning Advisory Committee in February, where several concerns were raised by the committee. The applicant is requesting approval to present their amendments and rationale for their application to PAC. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council give approval to the applicant, Clayton Developments, to present details regarding amendments to the application to a further meeting of Planning Advisory Committee. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hibb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously.
Motion C25(75), existing non-farm dwellings. Council has directed staff to prepare amendments to the land use bylaw to enable existing non-farm dwellings in the agricultural reserve AR zone to be able to expand beyond 25% and add accessory dwelling units. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council give first reading to amendments to the land use bylaw that make existing non-farm dwellings within the agricultural reserve AR zone lawfully existing use for the purpose of enabling a public hearing and authorize staff to schedule a public hearing. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously.
The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council direct staff to seek comments on the proposed changes from the East End Agricultural Advisory Committee within the next month for feedback, and if no feedback is received, PAC is to continue without input from the Agriculture Advisory Committee, re non-farm dwellings in the AR zone. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Motion C 25(36), water course setbacks and undersized lots. In January of 2025, East Hants Municipal Council passed a motion to bring a report back to council through the Mount Uniac Planning Review regarding setback variances for water courses and lakes on undersized lots. Staff are requesting that motion C 25(36) be incorporated in the 2026 plan review due to the impact of possible changes to section 3.24 setbacks from water courses of the land use bylaw on the entire municipality. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council authorize staff to move the review of water course setbacks for undersized lots, motion C 25(36), to the 2026 plan review. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Dixon. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. The motion is passed unanimously.
Last item, lot grading and drainage, unserviced lots. At their March 2024 council meeting, council passed a motion directing staff to write a report regarding extending bylaw P 1200, lot grading and drainage to property in the unserviced areas of East Hants, and provide options for council's consideration. The purpose of the lot grading and drainage bylaw is to manage the drainage of water on individual lots so as not to have a negative impact on the subject property or adjoining lands. The bylaw was adopted in 2006 and currently only applies to municipal service land. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends the council proceed with amending bylaw P 1200, lot grading and drainage, to require the submission of a lot grading and drainage plan for all lots up to a maximum of 1.21 hectares, 3 acres, where no municipal service are provided, and authorize staff to consult with the public on the proposed change. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Perry. Counselor Hebb.
Chair, through you to staff, if a lot grading plan was done and later on it was determined that the water was coming from that onto another person's property, what is the recourse? Would that be civil court matter, or who would it be? Would the municipality have anything to say in that?
Through you, Madam Warden. So when a lot grading plan is done and submitted with your building permit, at the end of that process, there has to be a lot grading certificate to make sure the grades are actually established according to the plan. And at that point, the municipality's sort of done. Your lot has been graded according to the bylaw, and a professional is signed off on it. So if there's a problem after that, it would be either because the professional who designed it didn't do a good job, or somebody changed the grades after the fact, and that becomes civil. So that's, the benefit of having the certificate is what the grades were supposed to be. But yes, it's not a bylaw that we go out and actively enforce and then fix grades if they're not. It's really to get the property at the point the house is occupied, that to make sure the grades are established correctly.
And any recourse would be a civil suit. Thank you.
Counselor Rhino.
Through you, Madam Warden, I cannot support this motion. I thought about this a lot after the meeting the other day. For the small amount of problems that we have recognized here now, we are going, if this motion passes, we are going to put a substantial cost onto anyone who wants to build or whatever, a new home in the rest of the municipality of East Hants. That is a big substantial cost. We're trying to attract homes in the rural area, and I'm not saying that this would totally put this to bed. No, we wouldn't attract, but it's going to significantly affect some owners who are struggling try to get something going, and it will be an extra hardship for it. My thought is, we're catering to the small amount of problem when we're not getting the big problem strictly across the rest of the municipality. It was pointed out here that no other municipality in Nova Scotia has this. It was pointed out that HRM did have this. HRM had so much problem with it, they had to rescind it. It was also, we were kind of misled here for a second by staff during the committee. They said that HRM was reconsidering this, but when they clarified that by saying that no, that wasn't council that was reconsidering, that was just planners talking. Also, when I look at this as it is right now, you have lot grading plans are needed for lots up to a maximum of 3 acres. Okay, it is very possible that in the rural area, it usually takes 2 acres for a well and septic. So if you had somebody that had between 2 and 3 acres there with this motion, if this motion continues, you will have them subject to the fee of this lot grading and drainage bylaw. You get their next door neighbor who happened to buy 3.5 acres or more, who may situate their home as within the laws close to the dwelling. It doesn't have to be in the middle, it doesn't have to be in the back. As long as it meets away from the boundary lines, they're not subject to this. So it's kind of like the CAP program. You got 2 houses or 2 properties that are not being treated equal here. So I can't support this motion. If there was a problem, we'll deal with it. I really believe this is a civil issue and should be dealt with by in a civil court. That's how I feel, and I cannot support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. John, to you, I understand what Councilor Rhino is saying. So what will happen if I have 25 acres and build a house on it, and after that I decide to subdivide 1.5 acres after I finish my house? That makes this redundant, right? Like, that doesn't affect him, or you're gonna ask him for a drainage plan after to be able to subdivide?
To you, Madam Warden, no. Whatever was permitted prior is fine, but any of those new lots would then have to do the lot grading and drainage.
No. I mean, somebody owned 25 acres, and he built a house, and instead of subdividing 1.5 acres before he built the house and get permit, he built the house and subdivide. So he got away without doing anything. So there's a way around it now. That's what I mean to say. There's a way around it, and people can maneuver around it and build their homes on a big lot and subdivide. So you're not going to be able to stop them from that. You cannot stop them from subdividing after they build their home without the drainage plan.
Through you, Madam Warden, that's the direction the option that council had us, we still haven't actually created the amendments, but I'm imagining that, no, if you took out a permit on a 5-acre parcel, you built a house, we're not going to come back after the fact and ask you to establish grades. It's actually very difficult. I mean, you can't, it may not be possible to establish grades the way they should be after a house is already built.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So people can get away without doing it, and that will eliminate all that hard work that we did. So I like the certificate idea that if something happened, you could go after an engineer that designed it. But there's way around it, so I don't know. I'm on a fence. I'll support it, but I just want to mention that there's way around it, so thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'm in full support of this because the motion is not approving this to go into effect right now. It's approving it for staff to then go out and consult with the public on the proposed change. And we're going to hear back from the public before we make any final decisions on whether this goes into effect or not. So I don't see any risk here. I don't see any costs. I believe we should hear what the public has to say because they're the ones that are being affected by it right now. having to put in a new septic, having to put in a new well at cost of $25,000 a septic and $10,000 to $20,000 a new well when this is happening. So I think those are the people we need to hear from. Thank you.
Counselor Tingley.
Through the chair, I think I voted against this in committee, but now that I've heard about it further and thought about it, I think I am in favor of the motion, at least to give the public a chance to weigh in on it. Thanks.
Seeing no one left to speak, we'll go to, Counselor Musa.
Since this motion is going to affect only the rural, the unserviced area, but there's unserviced area here too, so the public meetings are going to be just here, or are we going to have some public meeting in the rural area too, in the other two regions?
Through you, Madam Warden, when we're doing a general bylaw like this that would apply to the entire municipality, we would typically hold a meeting here unless we're directed otherwise. So if you want us to hold more than one session and go to Mount Uniacke, then, there should be a motion to that effect.
Yeah, so amend the motion to, or on a different motion.
I would say a different motion after this
Okay.
one is complete. Seeing no one left to speak, we'll go to the vote. The motion is passed by a vote of 9-2, with the Deputy Warden and Councillor Rhino voting nay. Okay, back to you, Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Since lot grading and drainage bylaw, it's going to affect mostly the unserviced area and the rural area like Mount Uniacke and the northern part of East Hants. I would like to move that a public information meeting would be held in each of those areas, like one in Mount Uniacke and one in the rural area.
Seconded by Councillor Rhino. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously. And that concludes the planning advisory. Oh, sorry, Eldon. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a question to that motion. Is that Mount Uniacke, Kennecook area and here, or just the two rural areas? 3 areas?
2 areas.
One in Mount Uniacke and one in the northern area, and it's going to be one here in.
Okay, so
I
there'll
think we
be,
should clarify that because the motion did say one in Mount Uniacke and one in the northern area.
and I was like, I assumed there'd be one here, but it wasn't mentioned, and that, I should have
So I
brought that
think
up.
we should have a motion to also have one in this building, in this area.
I think that's covered under the original motion,
No,
right?
it's not.
No? Oh, okay.
So are you making that motion, Councillor?
I'll make that
Hill?
motion, yes.
Okay.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Perry. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. Motion is passed unanimously. So that concludes the PAC report. Next on our agenda is the warden's report, so I would turn the chair over to the deputy warden.
Go ahead, Warden.
Okay. Earlier, counselors, I did send an email out that indicated that I was going to bring something forward around the tariff situation, and since then, our CAO did some wonderful work and investigation, and I would just say it was never my intent to make a motion that says we're going to stop buying. That's not realistic. But what I guess I just wanted to demonstrate was East Hants' commitment to the extent possible, supporting Canadian at this time in our history. So because of that, I'll start by making this motion. I move that it be resolved that moving forward, East Hants will endeavor to identify and solicit quotations first and foremost from Canadian suppliers of goods and services and reduce to the extent possible U.S. suppliers in our supply chains.
We had motion, it's seconded by Councillor Tingley. Oh, Musa, sorry. Ah, here we are.
Just for clarification, is there a timeline on this, or is this in perpetuity? Like, are we just going to move forward with this from now on, moving forward at possible higher cost to the taxpayers in the future, or are we doing it for a period of time?
I don't think the CAO considered that when she crafted the motion. Oh, Adam has said, okay.
Thank you, Madam Morton, or Mr. Chairman, through you. I guess two things. We're hearing this motion is the philosophy of council, but I will also state to your question, staff will be bringing back in springtime as our anticipated timeline for your procurement policy. And as part of that conversation, we'll look at how this philosophy is integrated into your policy updates.
Yeah, because my biggest concern is 100% I'm in support of Canada First. Just our supply chains and our stuff have been linked and integrated with our neighbors to the south for well over 100 and some odd years. You know, we're in a disagreement right now, but things could change at some point, and I wouldn't want to put the municipality in a position where was there opportunity to procure items that are beneficial to the municipality for cost savings, that wouldn't be able to be explored.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Next to speak is Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, could you just read that motion one more time?
It be resolved that moving forward, East Hants will endeavor to identify and solicit quotations first and foremost from Canadian suppliers of goods and services and reduce to the extent possible U.S. suppliers in our supply chains.
So I take it that's a very general intent, and if we were looking at paying double or triple the amount for something, we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot.
If I could address that?
Yes.
Yes, that's why the words "to the extent possible" are in there, because I wanted it to say whenever possible.
Appreciate
And
that.
the CAO explained to me that it would be better to say "to the extent possible."
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tingley. Warden, you wish to speak?
No,
Oh,
that's-
you're... Turn this back on. Okay, seeing no one else to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the motion passed, vote of 10-1 with, who do I? Oh, okay, here we are. Oh, with Councillor Perry voting against. I'll turn the chair back to you.
I still have my report.
Oh, yes, you're still on your report. Let me get, I'll get
Okay.
you. Where are we at here? How do I get the?
Microphones.
Yeah.
And then mimic dial.
Oh, yes. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Well, I've just a short report. From February 28th to March 2nd, I attended various events at the Rawdon District Volunteer Fire Department's Winter Carnival. Attended an 80th birthday party for a friend, Joni McDonald, in Councillor Rhino's district. On March the 7th, attended our workshop on Robert's Rules of Order. Attended a St. Patrick's Day tea at the West Gore Church of Disciples on the 16th of March. And of course, on the 20th of March, we had the federal funding announcement regarding the Brookside Lift Station and the federal contribution to the Mass Timber Company. And later that afternoon, I attended the Screen Nova Scotia announcement in Mount Uniacke, which was supported by the provincial government. So all in all, along with the regular meetings and out and abouts, fairly busy. So, but at this point in time, that concludes. Oh, and I did have an opportunity to meet the Prime Minister and shake his hand. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Warden, and I'll turn the chair back to you.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move to business from counselors. I will start with, I don't remember where I started last time, so I'll support with Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. During this past month, I'd like to announce the Hants North Senior Boys Basketball Team won the provincial championship. This is a three-peat for them, and it's quite a feat to make a provincial champion 3 years in executive running. It's a great feat. And yesterday, the Hants North Junior Boys won their regionals. They're at the junior high level. There is no provincial, so they've reached their pinnacle as well. During the month, I attended the Little White Hall and Knoll Roads brunch. And on March the 2nd, I attended, as the warden mentioned, I presented an 80th birthday certificate to District 5 resident Joni McDonald. On March the 16th, I attended the Knoll Fireman's Breakfast, and in the afternoon, I attended the New Horizons dime auction on that afternoon. And last evening, I attended in Kennecott the RCMP community meeting, and so that wrapped up basically my monthly schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor.
Oh, I got one more thing.
Go ahead.
I almost forgot. We have been dealing with the speed radar issue for quite some time, and I'm telling you, it's getting very, very, very frustrating. There is one speed sign that is erected very close to the Lawrence House, hanging on a pole, crooked to be, and it looks like 2 jumper cables hanging from it. Now, I have talked to staff about this, and I've asked for this to get, if they're not going to get it going, take it down until it can be going. Apparently, there's some problems with DOT or Public Works on this. But, people are asking me, what is it doing there? It's not even working. And unless it was taken out in the last couple of days, because I haven't been down the road, it was still there the other day. So I would like to know when staff is either going to hook this up or take this down and leave it until it can be hooked up.
Okay. Jesse.
Through Madam Warden, the latest on the overall project is that the province has approved 6 overall locations, and we're in the process of coordinating 6 of the municipal signs to be calibrated. The province has requested that they do the calibration on the radars to ensure the speed accuracy on the devices. So they've asked that we bring them all in. That one is expected to be included in that total 6 and pulled in and sent to the province all at once so that they all go back up as per what the province wants long term. We'll be able to put something in ongoing versus it being temporary. And so I don't have the exact timelines, but that is the current status. It's been active over the last 2 weeks, but I can request another update for the team and send it to council via email if that was the will of council.
A rebuttal through you to staff. All right, I understand that. Well, why can't we have one of staff? Isn't there a staff member in this municipality that can run down there and take that off that pole because it's not working? It looks hideous right now because it's not working, because it's all bent sideways, and I'm surprised that it's even still there. I have requested this, and I did it directly. Now I have to go through council to have this taken down, and it's frustrating to do this. So can we get until these get calibrated? Can we bring this back to this municipality and store it until it's calibrated, and then when it's ready to be put up and activated, do it in a timely fashion? Because everybody's asking me, what's it doing there if it's not working? And I'm getting tired of trying to well, you've been saying that for 2 years, they said. Well, I'm getting frustrated, so I'd like to have it down until it's not working. Surely we must have a staff member that could do that.
Jesse?
Through Madam Warden, it's municipal workload is complex. There's things that are always changing. This is one side and one wire. If it is the priority of council, you know what? I'm on vacation the next 2 days. I'll go drive it and take it down myself. However, it's challenging. It's challenging. I can request to staff. There's things coming up. I don't like to micromanage the staff. I've given them workload. But if it is the priority, we can say this is number one priority and we'll do it this week. And so be it. I don't know what the consequences are on that staff, but on them, but I can put in the request. If they don't do it, we'll escalate. I don't know if this is as serious of a topic, but we're trying our best.
Well, respectfully, if I had permission, I would take it down if I had permission. So I can put a ladder up there and put it down, but I'd have to have permission.
Yeah, okay, and I'm hearing from Adam beside me that staff will look into it and do their best to take it down.
That's all what I'd like to ask.
Councillor Garden Cole.
Okay. Just speaking from District 1 this month, I went to a Robert's Rules of Order workshop. I attended a corridor community options meeting. Their new build is experiencing a little bit of a setback, but they are hoping to be open for business in late spring. Also attended a municipal housing working group, and we hope to have all the information from that brought to council in the near future. I was present for the federal funding announcement by the Honorable Cody Blois last Thursday, and as Cody said, it was a great day for East Hants, and I was happy to be a part of that. I don't always get to participate in those, and it was pleasurable for me. I've had a lot of concerns from the residents in District 1 and beyond regarding the filling in of the pond by the developer in the White's property down from Avery's. I just need to touch on that because I've had a lot of people approach me about that. There's not, I don't really have much of a response for them, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. And that's it from District 1 this month. Thank you.
Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden.
I have pushed the button, so.
Fire Advisor met on March the 6th. The Chair and Vice Chair, Mike and Craig, for their positions. Talked about the terms of reference. Attend the workshop on Robert's Rules of Order. The Equity and Community Wellbeing Committee met on March the 20th. That information from the committee called Advocacy in Action was on the Monday memo, NSFM, March the 24th. We had a presentation by two ladies, Rebecca Todd and Jenna McQueen, and it dealt with mental health, mental wellness, and subject use. There is a gap in the data, so we're trying to get that cleared up. It does not include anybody under 15. There will be a mental health survey coming out in the near future. So look for it. The library accessibility plan was sent out to the board, and it is mandated to be made public on April the 1st. I went through the accessibility plan and made a motion today that it be adopted, and left a caveat that if it could be revised in the near future, if we had to. I attended an RCMP town hall meeting in Kennebunk last evening. It was nice to be there. I looked at the East Hants strategic plan yesterday. There is a question about the drainage at Horn Road across from the Royal Bank. It seems that the water's not going under the culvert, under the road. It's coming out onto the road because I assume the culvert is blocked. And also getting complaints about the bump from the road repair when we had the water main break by the Royal Bank, and hopefully Public Works will get that dealt with as soon as possible. Orange Store, which is at part of the Petrocan across the street, is tentatively having an grand opening on April the 12th. I was talking to Sandra Mercer, the Director of Marketing, and that is the date that we have chosen. And they are opening 7 new stores in Nova Scotia, 7 new stores, and the company is from Newfoundland. Also, for information, Kohler Roach Insurance is having a party on April the 8th. I'll be away, but anybody that's interested, it's from 3 to 6 p.m. on April 8th. It's their 60th anniversary, and it's at the Nook and Cranny, 627 Prince Street in Truro. I'll be getting a certificate to present to them on Friday, hopefully. And I replied I'd be away, but I congratulate them on success and what they've done for the community. For staff's information and for council, I'll be away starting this Friday and be back on April the 11th, and that's why I chose April the 12th for the Orange Store grand opening. And that's all I have. I haven't done the code of conduct that the province is mandating, but I hope to do that once I return back from vacation. And that's all, Madam Chair.
Counselor Dixon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just several items here. I guess the first one is we have the tour of the RCMP in town on Friday. I've arranged a bus from Community Options. Community Rider. I forgot that. Thank you. I have 3 people that are willing to go on. If anybody else wants to ride, I'll be here about 8:15 in the morning, and it'll hold 8 people. There's no expense to us for that. So that's one thing if anybody wants to join us. As well, I attended several of the accessibility advisory committee meetings, and glad that went over well. And the staff has done a great job. I attended the Robert Rules Order. Worked a bit with Serenity Lodge during the week, and I also attended the Cody Blois at the last week. Probably the biggest thing I've been involved with this last month is Arrowhead Park residents they're trying to create a safe place area. And we've had some tours. The staff was out there with me today, and Calvin's had meetings with them. And hopefully we'll come up with some positive things. It's an area where we're not going to be able to get a second road in through there. So we're going to look at the other options. And when we get that done, hopefully it'll be information I can bring back and share with other councilors for their areas or in with Calvin. So from there. And probably the neatest thing I've found in appreciation to the staff of the municipality, we had a complaint from Thomas Street. The person does not speak. And through Jesse and the staff, he was able to come in to the office here today and have someone to talk to him sign language and get the issue addressed, and we're working on getting it resolved. And the last thing I guess I really have to say is I have a meeting with John McDonald tomorrow because most of my complaints are about roads, and I find that we're not getting a lot of satisfaction from the provincial government, so I think hope maybe a face-to-face he might help and get some of these issues resolved. That's all I have, Madam Woman.
Thank you. Counselor Hebb.
Madam Warden. On the 6th, the Tentative Fire Advisory Committee meeting, and on the 7th, Northern Waste Management meeting. And there is some things coming from that, but staff is going to be doing a report to council next month, so that'll be coming up at that time. Attended the Roberts Rules meeting and the funding announcement that Cody gave us. And I attended the RCMP Town Hall meeting, and I thought they did an excellent job in showing the public what they do and how they work so well with the municipality. And I think that they plan to have more of these, and I think it's a great thing for the municipality to have RCMP do this. So, thank you.
They have indicated they intend to do them quarterly and move around the municipality. Yeah. Thank you, Counselor. Deputy Warden McPhee.
Thank you, Warden. Just a few things. Yes, March 7th, of course, we attended the Robert Rules of Conduct training here. And on the 17th, we had another meeting of our Heydays committee. I'm pleased to say a few new members showed up, so that'll be a great help. And on the 20th, I was also here for the MTC and substation announcements, funding announcements. That's great for the municipality. And on the 24th, I attended the municipal housing strategy meeting. So we're coming close to having a report for that. I also had a question for the director of I&O regarding the traffic signs that Councillor Rhino had mentioned. I was just wondering where the other 6 signs or other 5 signs that are approved going to go. So I know I had asked for 2 for District 4.
Through you, Madam Warden, I don't have the list in front of me, but I can send that out to council this evening.
That'd be fine. Yeah,
Anything
that's
further?
everything for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll go to Councillor Merriam.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. So here's my update for District 6, North Lance Milford. I think you'll see a few recurring themes here. I was at the Fire Advisory Committee meeting on March 6th, Robert Rules of Order March 7th, at the federal funding announcement here, March 20th. I completed the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities new Code of Conduct training, and as well dealing with various constituency issues. And I'll just, for anyone listening on live stream, feel free to contact me if there's anything I can help with. Thank you.
Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. It's been a busy time in Mount Uniac and throughout the whole municipality. I also attended the federal funding announcement for Mass Timber and the Brookside upgrades that was held here at the municipality. Attended Fire Advisory Committee, Robert's Rules of Order, and the Pockwalk Watershed Advisory Committee as well. I also attended the Nova Scotia announcement of their finally establishing the first permanent soundstage in Nova Scotia, which is being established in Mount Uniac. They actually have the space for 2, and they're looking to expand. And for the last year and a bit, that space, until they purchased it, was being used by the television show Sullivan's Crossing. Has been using that for the last year or so. So they're continuing to operate out of there, but this will open it up for even more investment from Canada, local, and the world to come do film in Nova Scotia. Some good news. About 3.5 weeks ago, the Big A's Pub in Mount Uniac suffered a kitchen fire in the middle of the night. I think a dishwasher or something caught fire, and the kitchen was a total loss, and smoke, and there was a lot of damage. And within 3 weeks, many people in the area donated their time, some donated money, lots of people checked in, and on Friday at 11 a.m. on March 28th, they're going to have their grand reopening. What looked like they would be closed for 6 months or more, they're going to be back up and running within 3 weeks. So that's good news for those business owners. They're very good for our community. At the annual Wish Givers fundraiser, they won the fire chief's helmet, which goes up for auction, and I think they paid $66,000 or more for the privilege to have that in their business for the year. The local businesses get in a bidding competition over that to hang on their wall, normally behind their cash register, somewhere to see. It signifies they were the top bidder. So it's good to see them back open. I also want to wish Jenna Berger. She's going to represent Team Nova Scotia for Ringette. She's the starting goalie, and they're heading to Ottawa for nationals. So it's excited to see that happen. And a sad but good story. We have a young man in our community named Keelan Nickel. He has Ewing sarcoma, which is a very aggressive form of cancer. He's been battling this now for a few years. And in Canada, we don't have the specialists that deal with special types of cancers. Ours are more generalized as cancers. So he recently had the opportunity to go to Penn State University in the United States to see a specialist in this, which of course comes at an exorbitant cost. And our community, in the span of weeks, has raised over $38,000 to support this family through online auction and many other things. There was one couple in the community that told people to donate money, and this boyfriend and girlfriend would shave their heads. And within 2 weeks, they raised $2,700. Right now, they're still raising funds. One of the bus drivers at the school that drove them back to school has offered to shave her head in support as well. And that none of this would be possible if it wasn't for the local strong businesses that are in our community that put items up, individuals put stuff up, and people gave out of their pockets to help this family in need. Because from that, after seeing the specialist, he's going to require further treatments and regular trips to Montreal. They were able to arrange the treatments to take place in Canada to help lower the cost for him and that. But this is something that's been ongoing now for 2 to 3 years, and it's really galvanized the community in many ways. And he's not the only one that the community has done this for, but it's something that, you know, good stories like that of the communities coming together are what we need in tough times, and this is a positive thing, and the whole community's behind them. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Musa. No?
Thank you, Madam Warden. I also attended the Screen Nova Scotia announcement, and I'm not going to talk as much as Council Perry did. I think the Warden and Council Perry have covered everything. And about that little boy, I think every business is honored to help, and that's why we do business in a small community. You probably could do more business in the city or something, make more money, but that's what keeps us in a community, because everybody support everybody and make it a great community. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Tingley.
March 7th, I attended the Robert's Rules of Order workshop delivered by Chris McNeil, CAO in Annapolis as well. March 10th, I attended a Respect in the Workplace webinar that the CAO had shared with Council. And I understand staff were attending this as well. I think I kind of snapped at John tonight when I was trying to get some information about the presence of that could be set by agriculture land. And thinking about that, I apologize for being so aggressive trying to get the answer out of you. I think it is important to take these kind of courses from time to time and just think about how we're behaving and try to do a little better. On March 17th, I completed the Councillor Code of Conduct training online with NSCC and completed the short 20 question quiz they have. March 17th, attended the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting, which was reported on tonight. March 17th, I received confirmation that I will be on the Board of Directors for PVSC for the next 4 years. March 20th, attended the federal government announcement about the Brookside Wastewater Revitalization Project in Lance and the Mass Timber Project in Elmsdale. And much thanks to Cody Blois and especially to staff who are working hard on these projects as well. And the Brookside Wastewater project wouldn't happen without the application and the hard work of staff. And the Mass Timber the same way. They're doing a lot of work on this. So that's my report.
Thank you, Counselor. So that concludes business from councillors. We're now at the end of our agenda. All that's left is to set the date and time of the next council meetings, which is April the 15th, 2025, regular meeting of Council for Policy and in camera, and April 23rd, 2025 for the regular meeting of Council. Someone prepared to move those dates and times?
Second.
Yep. Moved by Councillor Merriam, seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favor? contrary. Motion is carried. There being no further business in front of council tonight, I declare the meeting adjourned.